Hey guys, so we're finally here to give you guys my official review of Albedo after playing with him for the last 2.5 weeks or so, 1.5 weeks or whatever it is. So let me start off first by telling you guys I think he's awesome. I think he's actually really, really cool. And I think he's one of my favorite units in the whole game because of how he works and who he can work with. So I have tried putting Albedo in every group composition I can think of, running him with Fischl, putting him in Vaporized comps, everything from here to Timbuktu, and he seems to work with every group comp I put him with. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about his abilities really quick. His normal attacks are really not that strong in my opinion, and realistically I think you're probably not going to be using him for his normal attacks anyway because he's a unique character who can do a lot of his uniqueness while being off the field. Overall, the damage values of his normal attack chain and his charge attacks are very similar to the main character. While his auto attacks might not be that strong, Albedo is a unique character that can do a lot of what he needs to do while not actually being on the field. Albedo's E ability is what will allow him to actually do this. The ability is called Solar Isotoma, and when you initially cast it, it will put a flower on the ground dealing attack damage. Afterwards, every 2 seconds, transient blossoms will form, allowing you to damage enemies and create a Geo AoE blast. One thing to make note on is that this AoE blast is actually based off of Albedo's defense. Only one can happen at a time, but this is extremely powerful because you can swap to your main damage dealer and still have this damage going on. This particular role of support damage dealer is one of the rarest things I think we can find in Genshin Impact. Other characters you might recognize in this role would be Fischl and Xingqiu. Albedo's ultimate ability is called Tectonic Tide. Albedo will summon rocks in front of him, dealing a bunch of geo damage. Assuming you cast his ultimate while you're standing within the Solar Isotoma, his E ability, it will then summon 7 Fatal Blossoms, each doing a decent amount of damage. Overall, this ability actually does do a fair amount of damage, and it's pretty short cooldown with pretty low energy cost. The only thing you really need to keep note of for his ultimate ability is that you do need to be standing within the Solar Isotoma when it's cast, and then you have to understand that not all 7 Fatal Blossoms are going to hit the same target, unless you're talking about a large mob. At maximum level, assuming that you only hit 2 Fatal Blossoms of the 7, you'll be doing roughly as much damage as Zhongli or Child with their ultimates, before taking into consideration any elemental reactions like Vaporize. Also, do keep in mind that the initial hit as well as the Fatal Blossoms are all going to be AoE geo damage. When it comes to Albedo's Ascension Talents, he's going to get Calcite Might, which is going to increase the damage of his Solar Isotoma's Transient Blossoms by 25%. When opponents are below 50% health. His final Ascension talent is Homuncular Nature, which will give 125 elemental mastery whenever Albedo uses his ultimate to nearby party members. His innate passive is going to be Flash of Genius, and that's going to allow him a 10% chance to receive double the product when making weapon ascension materials. So this is going to be when you upgrade your weapon ascension materials you get from the domains. So this is currently how I'm using my Albedo. 1561 attack and 1050 defense. I am using a Geo bonus damage cup, an attack percent pocket watch with a bunch of defense on it. Pretty good crit flower and energy recharge on a lot of these items as well. Most of this gear was gear I was able to pull from other units. Like, for example, I took the flower from Child, now that he's going to be using the water set, and things like that. So this set is not optimized for him in any way, shape, and form, but it does give him pretty good stats with 50% crit rate and 113% crit damage. And as you'll see in some of the footage later on, he's hitting pretty hard, and I'm pretty happy with his damage. I'm also using the Festering Desire, max refinement, level 90, so 510 attack, and then 45% energy recharge. It's really just helping him get that energy recharge up to spam his ultimate, but also giving that 32% skill damage to his Transient Blossoms, and also the 12% crit rate for those abilities as well. So the clip that you guys are seeing right now is with that gear that I specified earlier. And so what you're seeing is when Albedo uses the Solar Isotoma and initially sets down the flower, we're getting about a 6200 crit, and then each Transient Blossom is proccing for roughly 4200 damage in AoE, sometimes more. And then in this clip, we're gonna try and show off a little bit more of that Transient Blossom damage. So you can see 4200 there, and then we go and hit him again for another 4200. And then a third time for 4800 because we get that extra bonus damage when it's below 50% health. And then right there we were seeing that the ultimate hit for 18,000 with the Fatal Blossom hitting for 3200. Do keep in mind, these are currently how I'm using him with the gear that I have available to me. And in the future, I probably will end up gearing him differently because of the gear that I do have. For example, because now I have the Festering Desire maxed out and max refinement, I think it would be more worthwhile to get him a defense-based set and focus more heavily on that instead of the ult spam. Although the ult spam is nice, it does require him to be on the field every 12 seconds, which isn't necessarily a problem, but it does mean that I'm spending less time on the field with characters like Klee. And while I'm currently running him with a 4-piece Noblesse to give more attack to my carry like Klee, in the future, I think I am curious into looking into getting a defense-based Petra set that has a decent amount of attack in its substats. Of course, we're still going to want to stack crit damage and crit rate as well, but I do think that the numbers that we've shown already are a pretty good showcase of what this character is going to be capable of if you build him in a attack and defense type build. Which one you focus on at the end of the day will be up to you, and will probably vary depending on the gear that you using. If you're going to be going with a Petra set, it might make less sense to be investing in attack because he's not going to be getting that damage for his ultimate anyway. Ultimately, this is kind of one of the downsides of a character that uses both attack and defense scaling abilities, because it's so hard to get gear that has those good stats that you need alongside something like crit rate and crit damage. Realistically, what I'm going to be looking for in the future is defense main stat pieces that also have attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, and then also energy recharge. So finding things that are going to be rolled that specific is going to be fairly hard. So when all's said and done, how do I like Albedo? Well, honestly, I think that Albedo is one of my favorite characters in the game right now. I mentioned it previously, but I've tried him in all kinds of team comps. I've tried, putting him in my double Animo team with Venti and Klee. I've tried putting him in a team where I was using Fischl as another support damage dealer. I tried putting him in a team where I was using Mona to apply Hydro. He worked in all of them. One thing to notice is for something like Mona's E skill, it was potentially applying it in the wrong order, so the wrong person was proccing the elemental reaction. Not a huge deal because it's just kind of the E damage anyway, so not a big deal. And for her ultimate, realistically, you're going to be more precise about when you're applying which elements. But for the most part, from what I can see, it seems to me like Albedo kind of just fits in every group in the same way that Fischl does. He's just going to be more damage that's going to be added to your other characters just passively, and you don't really have to work that hard for it. And then on top of that, you don't even really have to gear that hard for it. I know a lot of people are also running Albedo with the Harbinger of Dawn, and that's a really great 3-star sword that has crit damage as its main stat, and then it has a special ability where when you're above 90% HP, it increases your crit rate by 14%. And that's for a level 1 refinement sword, and it can go all the way up to 28% at refinement level 5. So if you do decide to go with a defense-focused build and you're not really working on his attack damage, you're not really taking a huge hit from having a 3-star sword like this. So then the defense scaling ability, which is what you're focusing on trying to improve, will actually get all the benefits from having a sword like this. And at the end of the day, really this just shows how versatile he can be and how he's built. You can do a mixture of both, which is what I want to do in the future. You can do a focus just on offense, you can do a focus just on defense, and either way, he's going to be improving the damage that you're going to be able to do for your team. And then perhaps the most important part about how Albedo works with your team, he's not going to be messing up the elemental reactions that you're attempting to do and then messing up that damage even further. If I'm doing, I'm trying to do an overload comp, let's say with Klee and Fischl, I don't want Albedo taking the place of the overload. But as you could see from some of the earlier footage, I was able to do an overload comp just fine using both of those units. And as I mentioned before, I've tested Albedo in a bunch of different groups, and the only ones that he doesn't work maybe as well with are ones that are applying elements more often, but that's not really a problem because of how it works. And I'm confident after playtesting him that if you did run into some issue where a character was proccing the reaction in the wrong order, you should be able to change your timing or your rotation of your characters in some kind of order or fashion that would allow you to get the right character doing the right elemental reaction. So because of that, he can really slot into pretty much any group that you want. That being said, if you actually have Venti, he actually has a very unique interaction with, see in this clip right here. If you use Venti's ultimate and then use Albedo's ultimate, you're essentially able to hit every single blossom on every enemy that's affected by the Venti ultimate. The raw damage of this is insane. Albedo's ultimate is normally able to do roughly Zhongli and Child pre-vaporize damage with only hitting 2 blossoms. If he's able to hit all blossoms on all targets doing AoE damage, he's doing closer to vaporize damage of Child's ultimate, and really close at that. And keep in mind, this is with the current form of Geo. Once the Geo resonance is buffed in patch 1.3, it's going to up his damage significantly. If we assume that the Geo resonance values are going to be the same as they were announced previously for the 1.3 beta, the 20% increased geo damage debuff, this combination of Venti and Albedo is actually going to be doing more damage than vaporizing Child's ultimate, which is insane for a Geo hero when it comes to damage. It will require that you have Venti in the same party, so that it is kind of a specific thing, but if you do happen to have this combination, it is going to be insane. And actually, I think the fact that this works is going to, I think, force me into looking more heavily into building attack instead of defense. So after everything we've already said, at the end of the day, do I think you should pull for Albedo? Honestly, no. As much as I like Albedo, and as cool as I think he is, being able to pretty much slot into any team, I still think that this is not a character that you need. If you are not a fan of Geo characters, then don't pull for Albedo. There's not a lot of Geo characters we have right now. Maybe someday Geo will be your thing. I don't think you should ever pull for a character that you don't like. However, that all being said, and I've been pretty, nice and I think open about how much I like him so far, I do think he's a great unit, honestly. And so if you do like him, I think he's a great pull, and I think that he is a cool unit to invest in and have with you on your journeys into that. Besides whether or not you like him, I think the biggest reason why I wouldn't recommend for you guys to pull for Albedo is because I'm kind of going on the assumption that you guys aren't going to be pulling for a lot of characters, and ultimately having Albedo isn't going to make or break your account. If you have Fischl, if you have Xingqiu, you have characters that are doing a similar role with better elements, frankly. And so they're probably just going to be able to do more for your team that you already have set up. However, I do want to come back again and say that I do think Albedo is really, really cool. And if you're someone who's really into Geo characters, like you're really excited for the Zhongli buffs or something, I think Albedo is going to be a great character to run alongside Zhongli for that Geo resonance. So maybe that's going to be your thing. Personally, I'm actually really looking forward to trying them out together again once Zhongli gets buffed. Alright guys, I think that's going to be it for us today. Thank you guys so much for spending that time here with us. If you want to stop by our Twitch channel where we're doing a lot of this testing, go ahead and check the description box below and I'll have that link information in there. In the future, I'm going to be doing a build guide for Albedo, more in depth, talking about what we end up getting him for Petra set later on, how I think it compares overall with his current build that I have going with him that's focused more on attack. It's going to be a good time. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much again, and good luck on your pulls if you're pulling for Ganyu, and have a good one. I know I'm excited. For those of you that are still here, we actually are going to be doing our Ganyu video earlier this time around. Sorry that this Albedo video came out so late. I wasn't originally planning to pull for Albedo, but it just kind of ended up happening after the trial because I liked him so much. So hope you guys are looking forward to our Ganyu video.